Hi and welcome to the Young Life Training Session 2018 informational presentation. I'm Lindsay Fuel and I want to discuss the training presentation report that I provided for you and kind of why we chose this training path, why I wanted to employ these strategies, and how your employees will be affected by this training. So the first part of our meeting, I want to talk about the needs assessment review and interview and why we chose that, what needs to be fixed, and my analysis of the interview. Then I want to discuss the training strategy, so what kind of strategy will we employ and the type of training that we should use for the organization. Then we'll go over the training program design, and I provided an outline of the training day within the report provided, along with the evaluation strategy. So this evaluation strategy will help us understand what employees learn during the training and how or what needs to be, built upon in later training sessions. But this will really give us a bare bones and a backbone to what employees learned, how well they learned it, and if they were able to explain the learning objectives at the end of the training. So to start this off, we'll talk about the needs assessment. We conducted a needs assessment interview a few weeks ago over the phone. We kind of talked about what Young Life was all about, the mission statement, the values. Those 2 points were really hit on, and we discussed those quite a bit, more so than just the transcript that I provided within the report. Those seemed like two of the biggest most important things to you, and that I really want to incorporate those two things into our training program. So we conduct this needs assessment to understand what the company is looking for, if there are any weaknesses that need to be built upon, any training that's already there and how it can be improved upon or fixed, and then just to kind of understand what the organization is looking for, where they come from, to better organize and plan our training session to fit the company instead of just a generic kind of session. So we currently, what you thought needed to be fixed in the training that you already have, you have a lot of webinars, which means there isn't a lot of face-to-face communication with other employees or your supervisors during your training. You just have webinars that you log into. You don't really get to ask questions or much of that. They're kind of pre-recorded. And that can be kind of problematic because then employees don't feel like they're really getting the face-to-face time that they need at the beginning of their start of their career at the company. So that was one of the main things that you wanted fixed, and also an open Q&A session so that employees who had questions after the webinars could have a time where those questions can be answered by somebody who either works for the company or someone like me who has studied your company and really understands what's going on. My analysis over this interview is what helped shape this training strategy and the training program. So going over this interview with you and looking over my transcript for a second time, it was really helpful that you were able to answer all of my questions. You had lots of information to provide, and you really, again, I want to say this again, you really hit on the mission and values of Young Life and how they need to be explained to employees so that they can learn how to explain and discuss them with donors and parents. So the training strategy is our second point. In order to put in the mission statement and the values of Young Life, I want to align our training and development with the company's direction. So because your organization is a religious organization, it is important that your belief system can match up with your training. And by doing this, we are given an opportunity to train employees how to speak with donors and parents of students, or even students themselves who have questions about the organization as a whole. One of the strengths that you mentioned in our interview was having lots of great communication between different regions and locations, which is great, and your company is also people-oriented. So being people-oriented, we really need to have a training session that's face-to-face so that employees can feel the people-oriented kind of belief of Young Life as they're starting out their career. So the program design is provided within your report. It gives out a list of our course title, the lesson length, the learning objectives, kind of all of the basics, and then it gives out a timed outline of each activity and how it will affect the training. So the course title will just be about Young Life because it's providing information about Young Life, kind of like when you go to an about page on a website. That's what we're providing in our training. The lesson length will be about 3 hours, depending on how many employees we have and how many questions they have at the end. If there are really lots of in-depth, deep questions that we need to go over, we can always answer those at a later date or answer them the same date if we have extra time. The main learning objectives, so after the session, I want employees to be able to explain the hierarchy of Young Life's organization, so who's at the top and how it kind of all breaks down, chain of command. I want to be able to have the employees discuss the mission statement of Young Life and the values of Young Life with parents and donors, because this is extremely important in a religious organization that's a nonprofit. You need to be able to express what your organization is about in order to get donors in. I also want employees to be able to discuss the goals of their location and region. This will help them just kind of understand where their location and region should be heading. And then I want employees to be able to organize plans to reach these goals, just in using the mission and the values as guidelines on how to reach their goals within the organization. Our current target audience will be new and existing employees of Young Life, so any new employees that comes on will need to complete this training, and then any existing Young Life employee who hasn't had training within the last 3 years, I think should also come to this training just so that they can kind of get a refresher. And if there are any other employees that just really want to come to the training, that would be fine as well. The room arrangement that we'll have is just kind of at a conference table style. That way the presenter can get up and show the PowerPoint and all the presentation, and then there's also the ability for discussion through and between trainees. So looking at this outline, we have our pre-session survey. This survey will allow employees just to kind of explain what they already know about the company. So it'll be nice and easy. It'll just be used to estimate how much each employee knows about the hierarchy, the mission, values, and goals. We'll provide a PowerPoint presentation listing off all of the mission statement, the values again, any current goals, and we'll also give a website orientation to employees so that they know where to look for the hierarchy and who to go for if they have issues, and where to find them on the website and all of their contact information. The fourth part of our presentation training session will be a goals discussion. So we'll have all of the people who are involved in the training discuss the location and region goals, and then we'll take time to organize these goal plans as a group just to kind of get used to learning how to do this. There will also be a Q&A session where any of the trainees can ask the trainer or presenter questions about the training or any other questions that they have. Then we'll do another survey, the same one as what was presented first. And this will just allow the trainee to see how much they learned. So it'll just be like a personal look at, oh, now I know how to do this compared to my first survey. After this, we'll do a participant evaluation. And this it'll be a simple quiz. It's about 8 to 10 questions. We'll add some questions if we need to. And that will just really help us understand how much they learned. So that brings me to my fourth and final point, the evaluation strategy. So this strategy is just a quiz, like I said before. So some of the questions that I have on this quiz are, what is the mission statement of Young Life? What are at least 5 values, because you guys have a lot? How can you use the mission statement in your daily work? What goals have you set for your location and region? What is the plan for reaching these goals? How would you explain the mission statement of the organization to donors? What would you say to a parent who asks, what is your organization doing to improve the youth culture in this area? And finally, what would you say to a parent who asks, how do your values influence what is discussed and taught at Young Life meetings, just with the students? So all of this will help employees learn more about the organization and how it all works and how they can use the mission and the values within their daily work. I think that pretty much concludes all of our meetings. If you have any questions, please just let me know. But I think that's about it. All right, have a good evening. Bye.